Andrew Sorley.
Well, hello, Drew. It wouldn't be a Tuesday afternoon in June if we didn't hear that anthemic theme song, would it be, Drew?
That's true. Although, let's face it, we never know when we're doing live on this. And I want to say, you didn't dress. You didn't get the memo that we were gonna go formal this particular edition of Drew Jay's Talk.
Today's formal. It's the prom edition of
The prom
Drew Jay's
edition.
Talk.
That is it.
You
Welcome to
know,
Drew Jay's Talk.
second week of June. It's when it's a rite of passage. Drew, you're entering high school, and we're all very proud.
It's funny. I was actually just talking to superintendents today of an entire school district. So
There you go.
they're wrapping the year up and going to take 2 months off, go right back to it. So it is 106 degrees outside where I am right now. How are things where you are?
Well, I'm in the HQ. I'm in the Drew Jay's Talk HQ, downtown Toronto. It's a cooler day. I know you find yourself on the road today in the breadbasket of America.
I very much do.
A little bit warmer where you are.
Central California. I'm in Visalia today, everyone, coming at you. The J game started at 5 o'clock in the afternoon for me yesterday, which was very, very nice. I forgot how much I enjoyed being on the West Coast because the games are all over by 7 p.m. and they start at, like 10 a.m. on Sunday. So the first thing you can do is catch the ball game. And absolutely loving it. I'm heading back on the red eye tonight, and we'll probably be able to catch the game before that. So I'm pretty psyched, man. I'm going to be listening to it on the way to the airport, which is my favorite thing when I got a long trip, to know that the ball game's on.
Well, it was an interesting week of baseball. I guess you were pretty close to the Oakland Coliseum. You might have even been able to catch a Uber over there, but I don't know. I don't know if that's worth the trip to go
It's
see
not,
that.
man. Last year on the Jays, remember last year the Jays, I think it was right after there'd been a bad accident with one of their coaches, I think, and they ended up going out to Oakland and just getting walloped over a 3-game set over, I think, the long weekend in July. And I was there for a couple of those games. We got like the front row seats, like the special in the action seats, and you're still 200 yards from the game in Oakland, right? So honestly, man, it is not a great game experience in Oakland. So obviously that's come through and there isn't going to be any anymore. So I actually kind of thought about it and then decided that honestly, man, it's such a lousy baseball experience that I decided not to go.
Yeah, I've obviously never been to that particular stadium, but it's confusing for me because we've obviously watched a lot of up and down baseball here in Toronto, but Oakland, they're having a rough season this year, but they do have nice players to go and cheer for, and they just can't sell tickets. They can't sell like 1,000 tickets to save their lives. The place seems like it's always deserted.
It's way out there too, eh?
Well, what in relation to the city? I don't know.
In relation to the city, man, it's like it's a bit a ways away, and I mean, I think we're spoiled having the Rogers Center right downtown, but like you got to commit to getting out there, and then you got to take the train out, and then you got to take the train back in with everyone leaving, which isn't as crazy, right? But which isn't as crazy when only 18,000 are leaving or 6,000 are leaving as opposed to 35, but still.
I actually, for a completely unrelated reason, I was looking at this blog post, and the Rogers Center, our Rogers Center in downtown Toronto, actually has the highest walkability score of any professional stadium in any sport, which I thought was pretty cool.
Really? That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's true. Everything goes right down to Union, and we got great with the two stadiums right there. I mean, I've done the ball game right to a Raptors game, like 1-to-1, going straight from one to the other, and it's a blast. So yeah. I think one of the things about Toronto is the more you travel around the world, the more you realize what a great city we have, notwithstanding the ridiculous traffic. Really, like that's a whole Drew Jay's Talk. It's a positive podcast, so we're not talking about the Gardner at all.
Well, it was interesting to see Chris Bassett kind of taking in his sort of final visit to that stadium. He seemed incredibly emotional, and grabbed a handful of dirt, put it in his pocket as he was. They described him as tearing up, and it's interesting to I guess he has a lot of memories attached to that stadium. The memory I'm going to attach to that stadium is Yusei Kikuchi being a linebacker and taking out Oakland's first baseman Tyler Soderstrom. That was pretty hilarious. What do you think about that?
Honestly, man, I didn't see it till the replay, and I actually didn't see it till last night because things have been crazy. I've been traveling quite a bit, so I didn't see it till last night when the guys on the broadcast were kind of making fun of it, and I was like, "How funny could it be?" And just watching it, I think the problem is I understand what happened to him. Like you see everybody scatter, and you just scatter. And it's a weird place in Oakland. I think it's kind of weird that everyone got a little upset about it, but I mean, it's sports, so it's going to happen. I just thought it couldn't happen to a more perfect person than Kikuchi. Like he just strikes me as that would be the guy who would do that. Him or Bassett, honestly. I mean, last night we're watching the game and they're like, it's going to be Bassett who figures out how to get the bat down. And I'm like, there's like 30 people in that dugout. How? Sure enough, it's Bassett who figures out how to get the bat down. So I don't know, man. I think it's my biggest memory of the Oakland Coliseum is easily. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, so for me, it's always going to be Robbie Alomar taking Eckersley deep because I was like 11 or 12 at the time. And when you're 11 or 12, you're not just a fan. Like you die with the team. I'd be crying if they didn't win. So that's always my never-ending memory of that. Also, sitting in the first row and needing binoculars to see the players will be my other. Because we came in that day, sat down in the row, and just thought we are so far from baseball right now.
Right. What year was that? I'm just looking it
92,
up.
the Alomar one. I believe that's the
Yeah.
first. That's the first run to the World Series for the Jays. I do believe anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's the 92, and I think Eckersley had like a 0.63 ERA that year.
Yeah. So yeah, you were so yeah. I was there, but just certainly a little bit younger, and I do remember the '92, but I don't remember the details of it as much. That's all right. So Drew, we had a good week of baseball. I have a lot to be thankful for. I mean, the ninth inning on Friday night was tough. Just to see Chad Green come and throw one pitch and game over. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
that was kind of anticlimactic, but. Look, I think I've said this many times on our program that I don't mind a pitcher's duel. Like I like a low scoring game. There's some people that think that's crazy. They want to see 10 runs each. I like this weekend of baseball.
Yeah,
What
man.
did you think about it?
We've had 11 games since last time we were together, my friend, and in those 11 games, the Jays went 6-5. And so it's weird that like last night's game kind of changes the whole dynamic. I was putting all this together yesterday, thinking, nice, 6-4 probably feels better than it actually is. But then all of a sudden you're 6-5. So the last time we talked was Friday, May 31st, which was the reveal of the big City Connect jerseys. We won that one in the Pirates. Then we took 2 out of 3 from the Pirates, split with the Orioles, which started off poorly. I got a few texts from friends of mine saying, blow it up, blow it up, blow it up. Took 2 from the Orioles, so we split 2 or 3 from the Athletics, including a 7-0 shutout. Dropped 1 to the Brewers last night in a game that honestly was kind of a snooze fest, to be honest. I mean, Barrios looked good. He had some sharp stuff on his sharp break on his curveball, or sorry, the slurve, I guess. But I mean, what do? You give up 2 home runs, 2 solo home runs, and the starting pitching doesn't have a lot of flexibility now to do that. But the last turn and a half through the rotation, including, some people who don't usually get into the rotation, has been really, really good. And even last night, that was a good pitching performance. So the challenge remains, of course. Are we going to start putting enough runs across? But when you take a look there, I mean, the wins were 5 runs, 3 runs, 6 runs, 7, 6. So they're scoring over 5 runs in their wins. But then you look at the losses, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. And that's where the inconsistency lies right now. What do you think is – let me ask you, man, and because we're not picking on the Jays, but I always want to ask this. What do you think are a couple of things that are standing in the way right now of the offense catching on? Is there anything that can get done? Or when people are complaining, we got to do something, is there really anything? Or is it simply we're going to wait and see if they finally get back to where we feel the talent level is? What do you think? Is there anything that can get done? Do they need a different bat? We can talk about Cavan as well. What do you think, man?
Well, listen, I think I've got a lot of thoughts about this, right? The people who are texting you, hey, blow it up, blow it up, blow it up. This is an irresponsible text. The Jays are 3 games out of a playoff position, and there's 96 games left in the season. This is ridiculous. When MLB expanded the wild card program and added some more slots, to me that was nothing but exciting. Like, I think this is just great. But I'll just kind of remind everyone of my viewpoint that I don't actually care if the team makes it to the playoffs, and I don't even care if they win the World Series. True, you're not allowed to Google it. Who won the World Series 2 years ago?
Oh man, I wasn't paying attention 2 years ago.
All
Once
right,
the
true,
Jays,
true.
I
Who
don't
won
pay
the World
attention once the
Series
Jays are out.
last year? Who won the World Series last year?
The Rangers.
Okay, all right. So you get part marks.
2 years ago, wasn't it the Dodgers? No, who was it 2 years ago?
I don't even know. I didn't look it up.
Honestly, I hate to say this, and I'm supposed to be a baseball loving fan, but once the Jays are out, I stop watching. Like, the baseball season is a long slog, right? And
Yeah.
you get invested in one team, and I really, once my team is out, I don't want to watch baseball in the cold. And that, honestly,
Well,
it's too bad. I
where
missed
I'm
some good
going,
games over the years, but
where I'm going with this, right, is baseball is not just about offense. It's a pitching, defense, and offensive game, and we are still being treated to beautiful, beautiful defensive plays, even if the offense is scuffling. You said what's the salute, or you said what's the reason for the offense suffering? Um, there's a couple of things from my perspective. There's some really good pitchers out there. You got young arms who the Jays have never seen throwing 100+ miles an hour, and then you got these other guys throwing 76 miles per hour. The players are given so much more data that they have to consume and think about and process. The one night where the ballpark lost the power in Detroit, and they lost all their tools. The players, we talked about this, but the players basically said, "Hey, this is the most fun I've had in a long time." I feel like I sound like Buck right now, but the reliance on all of the streams of data, it's overwhelming. I mean, think about you and me in our own personal work lives, trying to ingest all the new things we're supposed to learn. It's overwhelming for any professional, never mind just a ball player.
Even trying to get this thing streaming live on all of our various channels, we just had to fight with for 10 minutes, right? And let's face it, if I was 21 years old, it would have been done in 3 seconds. So
Maybe.
like, I'm like, what is my password? I got to get it over near my cane. But I mean, hey,
Yeah.
like, we sound like Buck sometimes, but Buck isn't wrong about some of that. Like the same thing with the one knee catcher thing. I used to be a catcher. You can't block the ball like that. And with that many splitters coming out there, but I also used to mock framing. And I mean, we can't lie. I'm watching Kirk take strikes away, and I guess he's the best in the league, or one of the best in the league at that framing trick. And I always was just like, what kind of umpire falls for that? Apparently most. Apparently most do. So,
well, we've talked about this, why we love baseball, and you've had memories associated with your dad, and you've just had those warm, happy memories. And I would argue that the score didn't matter on any of those memories. It was the experience alone, right? And the reason I love baseball is the feeling you get watching baseball. Matter of fact, like, I get, our good friend Brett was texting saying, "Oh, glad Kevin Biggio's been let go, and finally Spencer's here." And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not glad. His numbers might be low, but Kevin was a guy who every once in a while, not every time, but every once in a while would come up when it mattered, and he was pretty clutch. Not to mention son of a Hall of Famer, right, in Craig Biggio. I think, he spent 5 good years with these Jays, and Kevin's going to find a new job. I'm not worried about Kevin at all. But there's something about this mob mentality of cheering for someone to fail and then cheering for someone to lose their job that I just absolutely hate about current fandom. And yeah, I know players are going to come and go, free agency, trades, whatever, but I'm just so against this idea of cheering for someone to lose their job. I find it to be gross, to be honest with you. So I find that actually impacts my enjoyment of baseball more than the on-field product.
Really, like the way that people talk about players off the field and through the media?
Sure. When I see someone commenting on Instagram saying, "Why is Schneider still here?" Now, listen, you could point like I'm the kettle you're calling the pot black or whatever the saying is. Pot calling kettle black, whatever it is. You could point out, like, I when Alex Anthopoulos was let go. Well, he wasn't really let go, but he wasn't offered the head role.
Mm-hmm.
And he I believe he resigned, right? Isn't that kind of how it went? There was tension.
You know what, man? I can't remember exactly, but like it was clear
Mark
he wasn't
Shapiro
part
was
of the plan.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark was brought in, and I think he scolded Alex, if memory serves me, for making some pretty big swings with the farm system. And then
because everyone they traded from that farm system went on to a long and illustrious Major League Baseball career. Absolutely. You know how they gutted the farm system? You keep hearing that. I'm like, cool. Yeah. Why don't we take a look at the careers that everyone who got gutted actually went on to have? Because can you think of, I guess Austin out there is playing or was starting at some point, Austin Martin, right? So
yeah, in Minnesota, yeah, there's a few guys, but yeah, we would have to go and do some. That's 2015, right?
Yeah.
When that happened, so that's some long math. But so I put up a thing on my Facebook 10 years ago making fun of Mark Shapiro because I'm a big Alex Anthopoulos guy, and people were calling for Alex's head back then, and they got it. They got it served to him. And what did Alex go and do? He worked with the Dodgers for a couple of years, and then he went and completely made over the Atlanta Braves. And it turns out they have a winning culture there. Yeah, true. I mean, I'm really against. I've said it before. I'm really against cheering for people to lose their jobs. John Schneider has been an organizational standout for the Blue Jays. He's been with the team for more than 20 years. You're going to go, like, he's a family man, he's a husband, he's a father. You're going to go and say, hey, he should lose his job because the team's lost a few games now. Maybe I'm a sentimental son of a gun, but
let's remember, man, your job is to win baseball games. So in this particular, I agree. I don't like it. I don't like people cheering for it. I don't like people hoping for it. I don't like people suggesting that someone's someone's way of making a living can be taken away from them. But they're just doing their job. Well, actually, he isn't. He's supposed to be winning more baseball games. But your point is well taken. But you and I are slightly different on the I don't care if we win thing. What I'm going to try to do is not be bitter if we lose. Be bitter if we lose, but I wouldn't say it doesn't matter what the score is at the end. I get a lot more enjoyment from watching the Jays win.
Of course. Let me back it up. I absolutely care when they win. When 2015 was happening, I was on the roof of my condo just across the street from the Rogers Center, and the dome was open, and I was listening on AM/FM radio. I've told you the story. Edwin Encarnacion hits a bomb, and I'm just losing my mind. So, of course, I love it when they win. When they lose, am I going to lose sleep now? I'm not. Tomorrow's another day. I'm like a goldfish. I'm like Jordan Romano, the closer. I'm a goldfish in there. True.
I gotta tell you though, man. I just find it more interesting in September if there's a playoff push. I mean, I love baseball. I love the game. But I also want to be into it all year. And it's really hard to be. I'd rather not have it in July, me having to start looking for things in the game to appreciate. I'd like to actually have the opportunity to be like, I really care about this game. Like at the end of last season, remember, we were all texting like crazy as they were going down trying to make the playoffs. That's what I really want because there is nothing more exciting than the race at the end. And I just want the Jays to be in it. If they come up short, they come up short. But I do want them to be in it enough. And so if the season starts to go sideways early on, what happens is August and September, where I really need a distraction, isn't as interesting.
Well, this is my point, Drew, is the idea of blowing up a team is silly. You've got some pieces on your team like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Now, when IKF got signed, was I excited? No. I thought, okay, this team has to do a little bit more. And it wasn't even for me. They don't need to do more for me because I'm a happy guy. But they need to do a little bit more to sell some tickets and get people fired up. IKF has been the surprise of the year for me. Talk about fun. The guy just plays the game, and he looks like he's a fun guy to be around, but like quiet, and then we got two on, or was it bases loaded? Yeah, bases loaded the other day, and was it 10th inning, 11th inning? It was extras. Hits a bomb to well, not a bomb, but he hits a double, bases clearing double. Um, Blow the team up for what? Like what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You gonna get rid of IKF? You gonna get rid of Justin Turner? Um, what does even blowing up the team mean?
Well, that's the question too. Is and I think what people are like is what's the difference between blowing up the team and retooling, right? Everybody wants to retool, but how often do you see that actually work, for lack of a better term, or sorry, how often do you actually see the retooling happen? Eventually, you try to retool for 3 years, you realize that it's not working, and then you blow the whole thing up. I think the challenge for the Jays is always has been is that everybody on the team has played better or hit better than they're actually hitting. And one thing that's nice to know right now is that we don't have to talk as much about Bo and Vladdy because both of them are hitting the ball awfully well. IKF is hitting the ball awfully well. IKF also plays great defense. And so the challenge for me is that was the better years for all of these players who they are, or were the better years the aberration and who we're seeing now is who they are? It's difficult though because I mean the Jays swing at bad pitches less than most teams in the majors. They have great exit velocity. Blah 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 blah. I don't understand what it is that is standing in the way. And when people are like, "Oh, we got to improve the offense," okay, let's say that somehow they go out and get a bat. Is one bat going to be enough? Is putting someone to protect Bo behind Vladdy one extra depth piece? Like with this team, this is the one that I've been thinking. Imagine they did get Shohei, but everybody just still hit like this. What would the season be at that particular point, right? It's like I've been thinking a little bit about how much of a difference would one big bat do in the middle of the lineup, and whether or not we just see what we're seeing now, which is, in my mind, math not working. Like for a year and a
Mm.
half now, brother, we've been saying all of these underlying things work. And now I'm kind of befuddled. And it just kind of like frustrates and makes me sad because I don't want to like freak out and yell. But at the same time, I'm sort of like, man, it's 3-1 going to the ninth, and I don't feel like, okay, we could pull this one out. You just don't necessarily think that in the big moments the hits are going to come, but everybody in the lineup can hit, and they've proven
Mm.
that before. So how do you put this? And it's been 2 years now, or a year and a half, where this is the case. That's just weird, don't you think?
Well, I'm just gonna keep. I know this is probably gonna frustrate you, but the Yankees are in first place right now. Um, and the Yankees were scuffling for the most of May. I know they turned it on like halfway through. I'm just trying to find a little calendar of their results. Um, Baseball is a long season, and a lot of things happen. An injury here, injury there. Right now the Dodgers look untouchable, but things can happen to any team. You know,
A 12 out of 15 run, which most decent teams have at some point during the season. 12 and like just think of it. I mean, 7-3 they win a couple days ago. They were 7-3 over the last 10, and everything feels different.
yeah,
Now, let's face it, it's a different schedule, and it's kind of rough to come out and be like, "Oh, we can't." We made up 2 or 3 games closer to 500 over a weaker part of the schedule. But maybe it's all about playing your competition or playing to your competition, right? They took 2 out of 3 from the Orioles. They did not look like a team that could hang with the Orioles in the first 2 games, but they certainly proved that they could over the course of the next two. And so the question then becomes, are the Jays going to up their performance against these better teams? Because we've all seen that where teams that are good kind of scuffle against people who don't push them right to the edge of their ability. And it seems
hmm
to me that that's really what's going to decide where the Jays are over the next couple of weeks is whether or not they can step up to the level of these other teams that are playing better at this point. Because for me, if you can stay in the playoff run and you can prove that you can consistently take 2 of 4 from the Yankees, 2 of 4 from the Orioles, these are very good baseball teams. That means you can win a 4 game series. And I honestly believe that with the Jays rotation, they can win a 4 game series against anyone. Now, they got to hit better, and their differential between runs scored and runs against is too big, but the runs against is still low. You know what I mean? Because the offense isn't going. The Jays aren't actually giving up that many, like many more runs than they were giving up fewer runs than you would expect with their record. Let's put
yeah,
it that way.
yeah, yeah. Well, and even with the redistributed schedule,
Which I
the
love, by the
the
way.
the AL East is still an extremely difficult division, right? And we've known that forever. Um, Drew, yeah, broken record Andrew over here. You can just call me broken record, but um, I'm going to keep pushing you back to baseball's still fun, win or lose. That's my perspective, anyway.
Well, what if we looked at it this way, man?
Mhm.
Yeah, Cavan lost his job. All right. And I hope he lands somewhere. I really, really do. But Horowitz has got a job now. And maybe we look at it that way. And I hope Cavan lands somewhere because, you know what, I think he's a solid Major League Baseball player. He's just not playing that right now. But we can also look and say, well, here is a chance for a potential next generation. It seems to me that the general consensus is the Jays have like 5 prospects, right? They got like Martinez and Horowitz, and I keep forgetting the guy's name who's hitting 360. They've got Tiedemann, and I'm forgetting one, I think.
Oh, you're
Okay,
talking
great.
down.
Pardon me?
Yeah. You're talking down the minors. Go on.
Yeah, down in the minors. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, all right, but when are they going to have a chance? And some of them are pushing late 20s, right? So you got to give a shot here because let's say that half of them turn out to be decent Major League Baseball players. Like it looks like Davis Schneider is going to be a decent Major League Baseball player. Let's say that a couple of the others do. Well, then you started to create that groundswell, and half of your starting lineup, you built them yourself. And I think that
Mhm.
most of the best teams we're seeing, at least 3 or 4 of their starting lineup are people that came through the system. Not, and the reason I think that's beneficial ultimately comes down to they're cheaper, right? Like you're much less expensive. Like right now, Vladdy and Bo are still affordable. I'm glad to hear that they are saying, look, whether we retool or rebuild or whatever the case is, those are 2 mid-20s prospects that you want to build around. And if you're going to let everybody else go, well, at least then you're not spending as much money. But we're going to need to know by the end of this year if 2 or 3 of those guys in the minors can play in the majors. Because if they
Right.
can, cool. The Jays aren't in as bad a spot as they think they might be. But I honestly can't wait to see, and I do hope they get the time to actually see, because we're seeing again and again that they bring up these players that have great talent and 19, 20 years old, and if they don't have immediate success, well, then they're busts. And like
Right.
it takes 3 or 4 years sometimes to actually become a major league hitter. Not everybody are these freaks of nature who we
Right.
have seen come up, right? Like
Like
Ronald
Bryce.
Acuna,
Yeah.
yeah. Like Soto,
Yeah. Nathan Lucas
that's his name, yeah.
was who you're thinking about. Um,
I feel
Spencer
bad for
Torres.
that guy, man. I feel so bad for that dude. Like, what else are you supposed to do than just hit the baseball wherever you're pitched it?
Yeah, well, I mean, by the way, the Jays also have a guy named Riley Tiroda. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name. He's hitting 361 in Buffalo.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah, look at yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't think you blow his team up. I think you build around them, and I think you get some. Listen, I'm heartbroken about Alek Manoah. We haven't talked about him yet. Um, you get some confidence. Like I see Bo and Vlad. They just need the confidence. You're a leadership guy. These guys have the tools. They need confidence, Drew. I think you should go have a session. You should go have a day 1 session with Blow and
Well, yeah, but isn't Vladdy hitting 350 over the last like month or so, which would
Now
be
you can get him
impressive.
to 400.
Which would be impressive if Aaron Judge is hitting 400 over the last 33 games with a 1800 OPS. Like,
Easy.
no wonder
I've
you
heard of
said
him.
the
I've
Yankees
heard of
turned
him.
it on in May. The Yankees didn't turn it on in May. Aaron Judge became
Right.
that guy that he does for 3 weeks every year and just makes everyone look like they're not playing the same sport. Now,
Right.
he'll blow out his knee anytime now, but and I hope he doesn't. I'm not saying I hope that. I'm just saying that this is the type of thing that Judge does, and it must be infuriating to be a Yankees fan because you're just so worried about when that inevitable injury happens while he's got an 1800 OPS. Like that
Right.
dude, when he's playing, is unstoppable. Like, I don't know. I'd rather have Ohtani on my team, obviously, but who's the hitter that scares you more? I don't know. Probably Ohtani because he's left-handed, but that's about it.
And Otani seems. I don't want to put Aaron Judge down, but Otani seems like a more intelligent baseball player, doesn't he?
He seems like a transcendent baseball player, my friend. And every time we talk about him, even for half a second, I go to what could have been, and then we have to pull it back. So pick a different topic before I start weeping softly, remembering that night again.
If note to the viewers, if anyone sees Drew curled up in a ball, rocking back and forth, it's because Shohei It's really Shohei's fault. So we're in the middle of the week here. We're in the middle of a series in Milwaukee. Headed over to well, we're coming back home, but we're playing against the Guardians of Cleveland. Um, what do you see? What do you see from this week coming up?
You know what? I think I'm really interested in seeing how the Jays adjust to higher level competition, both in Milwaukee and then, of course, Cleveland. And I like the fact that they're going to get the chance to do that before they head back to their own division.
Mm-hmm.
We should also think about going and seeing some Jays against the East. Like Boston's a nice place to go. Perhaps Drew Jays talk on the road. But I really am interested to see how, like, they're scoring 1 run or 2 runs against the Pirates. Are they going to do the same thing? Because scoring that amount of runs against the Guardians is a bigger accomplishment. So for me, at any moment, the Jays offense could start to perform at the level that it could. And I think that we have to recognize that there's a likelihood of that happening. Maybe it's only a third, but baseball works like that. Like, look at the Yankees. All of a sudden, two guys got super hot. The hitters that we really needed to be the foundation are the only ones hitting now, with the exception of maybe IKF. But as long as Bo and Vladdy are hitting, and Vladdy looks good, like, I know he's not hitting home runs, but I've never cared about that. I would way rather have a guy who hits 360 with 20 home runs than a guy who hits 240 with 40 home runs. Now, I know that all kinds of baseball savant statistics people out there will be like, that is not what you should want. But if you're hitting 360, you put enough guys in there who hit 360, and you're talking about two guys in the minors that are doing it. You got Vladdy, who's been doing it over a month. You got Bo, who's completely capable of doing it. You put enough of those in and you have a good starting rotation, you can win. Yes,
Yeah.
I know lots of you are like, well, Drew, if that was going to be the case, it's been 2.5 months now. When is it going to start to happen? I don't know. But I can choose to spend the rest of the season assuming it won't, or I can keep waiting like I have for a year and a half so I can tell you all, see, I told you so. That's what I'm waiting for. And if anything that's frustrating me about the Jays is they're denying me the opportunity to say I told you so to everybody out there.
Well, I want you to say "I told you so" also, Drew.
What are you thinking, man? How are you looking? So honestly, man, I would like to see them over the next 10 games. If they can do
Yeah.
6-4 over the next 10, I feel that, like, a lot of people would love more. Oh, they got to play 700 baseball. No, they don't. Like, when you see those things like the Jays would have to play this much baseball, you're also assuming that everybody else in the division is going to keep playing the way that they are. And they're
Right.
going to lose 12 out of 15 games at some point. They really, really are. And
I
I just keep
don't.
going.
I don't want to celebrate an injury like we've been seeing
No,
this big injury.
but like Tampa
I
Bay
just.
started last
Well, I was just about
season,
to say
what, like
that.
25-6 or something, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was about to tell you. I don't know if you've even read this yet. That JT Real Muto has a busted up knee. They just placed him on the IL, and he's probably gonna be done for the year. That can happen, right?
Yeah. Well, Acuna,
Um,
man, like,
Acuna thing, yeah.
that's bad for baseball. Like, it just straight up is. I wanted to see that guy play. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a guy I would travel to go see and play. Like, then again, I've always found speed to be like I think it's because I've always been rotund.
Right.
But guys who can fly, I've always sort of just found them fascinating to watch. Like Ellie De La Cruz, I could sit and watch that guy like rip
Sure.
around the bases all day. It's
Yeah.
you know what, man? I think if the Jays go 6-4 over the next 10, then that to me is a good sign. That'll put them around 500. I realize actually it would put them at 500, I believe, and it would be against really good baseball teams. And so
Yeah.
I think that if the pitching continues, and yes, the starters haven't been as good as last year, but last year they were better than starters are supposed to be, and they were more consistent with the injuries. So I just look at starting pitching wins baseball games. And I just don't see how the Jays can continue to underperform offensively on a straight up math statistical level unless they just aren't as talented as their performance in the past has shown. And generally, players are better in their mid to late 20s than they are in their early 20s. And now we're seeing Vladdy and Bo perform at that level. It's a question of who else can.
Sure. Well, and speaking of, you mentioning Boston, right? So Em and I are actually going on a little road trip. We're going to go see the Jays at Fenway. So who knows? Maybe we
When?
can try. Last week of June.
Really?
The
We should definitely
Jays, yeah.
chat. And if anybody's watching Drew Jays talk and are like, hey, let's get a caravan going, make sure you drop a line in the comments.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Emily would love it if you came and hung out with us on our vacation. So please, viewers,
I bet she'd be thrilled with that, eh?
just thrilled. Drew, it's always nice to see you.
It's good to see you too, man. You didn't say what you thought was going to happen this week, though.
Oh, didn't say it was going to happen. Pardon me. Forgive me. Look, I think Milwaukee and Cleveland are both extremely hot teams, but I saw a winnable game yesterday. That we had some opportunities and just didn't make it happen. So I'm gonna pull for us. I'm gonna say we have a good recovery win tonight, and heck, why not? Let's take 2 out of 3 against Milwaukee. I'm a positive guy.
I feel we're looking 2 or 3 out of Milwaukee. I think it's a split. Wait, are we playing 3 games in Cleveland or 4?
I will tell you. I had it open and I closed it. But yeah, no, I don't see any reason why we can't show the Guardians what's what.
Let's also just take a moment, though, as people who appreciate baseball, to like give Jose Ramirez a bit of a hat tip, because we're about to go play like the most underrated player in baseball. Have you seen the stats on this guy? Like, Jose Ramirez is a beast, and I can't believe it's sort of like, yeah, he's pretty good. No, he's really good.
Well, maybe that's playing in Cleveland, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say, not the most media savvy team, but yeah, no, three in Cleveland. So let's say 2 out of 3 against Milwaukee and 1 out of 3 against Cleveland. They're on fire right now. The Guardians are the 4th best team.
Got to cool off at some point, and I don't know, man. I feel like the pitchers are starting to slide into a groove. They have their ups and downs, but like when Kikuchi has a rough outing in the past, I was like, okay, that's Kikuchi's coming back. Like, that's the real, you say, who's about to re-arrive. Now when he has a rough game, I'm like, no, the real one will be back next game. And that's a bit of a shift. And it's amazing how just that one change in Yusei Kikuchi has changed the dynamic of the rotation, because 4 times out of 5, whoever's on the mound for the Jays that night, I think to myself, we could win a 3-2 game tonight. And that, to me, is something that I think the offensive woes over the last 2 seasons have made it really tough for Jays fans to appreciate how unbelievably lucky we are in terms of the starting pitching, that if we didn't have a great rotation, this year would be an epic disaster. And I think we do have to realize that most teams in Major League Baseball would kill for what the Jays have, because it's a lot harder to get a top 5 rotation than it is to get a top 5 offense, I think. And so I think the Jays are up near that. I think they're in the top 10 in rotations in baseball. I don't know for the stats, but I think in terms of talent. And so as long as that's the case, if you can get into the playoffs, there is always hope. And so for me, let's just keep our eyes on the pitchers, try to get the offense, because look, maybe we're a team that wins on pitching and defense. Like, Kansas City did that for years. And instead of being like, what aren't we? Let's start talking about what we are. A great pitching defensive team that has to figure out a way to scratch some runs out. And you know what? That doesn't make you a bad baseball team. It makes you a different team than we're used to.
Right. Well, here's hoping. Let's talk in a week, Drew.
Yeah, man. And look, I get to watch the Jays late in the afternoon again today. So, big guy, I love talking to you, man. It's great to do these Jays talks. I love it when we do it in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, because it's just another reminder of how lucky we are to do what we do and love the team that we love. So from the West Coast, brother, I offer you nothing but love, and I can't wait to get back to Toronto and us go catch some more baseball.
See ya, man. I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, brother. Hey, take care, everybody. Like and subscribe. We'll see you soon.